It is November 4th, 2021 at 7:33 p.m. Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Director Boyd?
Here.
Director Decker?
Here.
Director Harvey?
Here.
Director Lohman?
Yes, just in time.
And Director Slater-Carter?
I'm here.
All right, thank you. For President's statement, I'm just going to, I'm not going to show it on the screen, but if you go to our website, you can see the rainfall, and we are still in a drought, but we have a lot to celebrate because this month we have 7.77 inches of rain. No, this month, I'm sorry, we have 0.57 inches of rain, and last month, can't believe it's already November, last month we had 7.77 inches. So on the year, we have 8.08 inches, and that is officially more than half of what we got last year. So that's not enough. I mean, average annual is 32 inches, so we need 4 times as much to be up there. But this is still, it's always worth celebrating. It's great news. Okay, so that's the statement. Do we have oral comments from anyone on topics that are not on tonight's agenda? I see Rick's hand. I'm hearing a lot of chatter somewhere. Rick, why don't we start with you?
Okay. As people may or may not know, on the coast side, the census occurred a while ago, and because of changing populations, the Board of Supervisors in our county need to create new districts. That process has already started. I don't have some of the details with me, but various maps have been presented. 2 maps have been presented from a commission to the Board of Supervisors. Their meetings will be starting like next week, I believe, through December. They will be making decisions on what all the new districts are going to be. There is a group of unincorporated groups, which certainly includes the coast side, which is trying to get all of the unincorporated people in one district because the unincorporated people have no representation anywhere except their supervisor. So we'll be posting in various places like Nextdoor, everywhere we can, possibly at our next Montara meeting, we will be posting more information. We will be asking people to support unifying the coast side with the unincorporated areas to give us a voice in our county government. So please stay tuned. This is very important. It'll last for 10 years. And this is possibly the only way the unincorporated groups will have some power. Some very strange maps were considered, which split the coast side into every district, which gave us 0 power. So this is very important. And please stay tuned, everybody. And we'll be posting addresses to email letters. The public meetings will be posted to the supervisors. This is very important for us and for the next 10 years. So stay tuned, please.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Do we have any other public comment for items that are not on tonight's agenda? I see Ashley Rothman. If you could unmute. Clem, is she able to do that?
You're muted, Ashley.
I'm muted too. I'm asking to unmute. That's as far as I can go.
Ashley, you're still muted. I believe Clemens has made it so you can unmute if you click the control. Okay, so we're having a little technical issue on that end. Ashley, we can come back to you. We'll find a place to fit you in if we can get the unmuting resolved. Let's go to Michelle Dragony.
Hi, I did a post. It's a 5-hour meeting that the San Mateo County Redistricting Advisory Committee had. But they basically came up with 2 maps, and both maps include the coast side. One includes Pacifica, and one includes just the way we were or are right now. So those are the 2 choices that the advisory committee have put forward to the supervisors, and then they will make a decision on the 9th. So comments.
Thank you, Michelle. Ashley, any luck with the unmuting? Okay, we'll
Hello?
come back.
I am going to leave. Sorry, let me fix this.
We've got something looping here. Let's go to Rick.
Just real quick, I support whatever Michelle just mentioned. They had a 15-person commission, which only passed 2 maps to the supervisors. One is more unincorporated. One includes Pacifica in our district. That would give us less power because Pacifica has more people than the entire coast side. Other maps can be submitted, and literally the Board of Supervisors can do whatever they want. So again, we will be describing some of the maps. We will be giving map numbers and things like that to the public and encourage their support to unify not only the coast side, but all the unincorporated areas, because we are called a community of interest because we have no representation anywhere except our supervisor. That's all we have in the county. So this is very important for us and the other incorporated areas we're including. And again, please stay tuned, watch next door, watch all the news. This is going to be all over the news. Thank you much.
Okay. I see no other hands, although I think I heard Ann trying to speak.
Yes, I am here. And I'm sorry that I was under my daughter's Zoom and I could not get it to unmute. And I'm so sorry. I just got on a different device. I apologize for
that. Well, welcome. And what's your comment tonight?
Thank you so much. Well, I wanted to piggyback on one thing and then add a second. But the maps, I know that the MCC have been talking about this as well. And they were writing a letter. And I believe that they were looking for unification of the coast. And that's what a lot of people suggested. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. And perhaps you might want to reach out to them as well to see what efforts they have been putting forth on this.
I actually think we submitted a letter for the district as well for the committee. If I recall correctly, I was instructed to do that a couple of meetings ago, and we submitted a letter.
Thank you. And then my second point or question, I've been concerned when I see what's going on in Half Moon Bay with them regulating changes as far as everyone needing electrification. And considering our water system is heavily controlled with pumps. And I'm just very concerned with the fact that they're trying to turn everything to electricity. And like even in homes, they expect you to convert, if you have natural gas, to electricity, everything, including your heat and anything else. And knowing how fragile the system is. I mean, we've seen what happens every time there's fire danger with PG&E shutting down lines. You would have no backup. There would be nothing else if you only have electricity. And the grid, it can't handle everything. So I'm just concerned that that is heading this way with the county as well, that they're trying to force people to go entirely one way. And I'm just concerned what that would mean to the water system. And not only just a cost of conversion, but of course, to the homeowners. I mean, it's to have to change to an electric heating system is not cheap by any stretch. And so I just wanted to make everybody aware of that and see what your thoughts are. Thank you.
Clemens, do you want to say
Yeah.
a little bit about how we're prepared for when the grid goes down?
Yes.
We
So,
asked Ann where she lives real quick.
Oh,
I live in Moss Beach.
okay, great. Thank you.
okay. So, and I'm just going to address the question in regards to the water system. I think the directors will answer to, the broader community concern. When it comes to the water system, everything is already electric. We don't have any other power source really, except, well, actually we do. It's diesel generators, so that's our backup. So, but everything is running on electric on the water and the sewer side already. So we are impacted with PG&E outages. We're prepared for that through generator system. That's what I can say about the water
Yeah,
system.
and I mean, Clemens, we're better prepared than most households would be in terms of how long we can be down and having a plan for how to run and keep the important systems going. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we had, what was it? By now it's 2 years ago, but we saw the first PSPSs were significantly affecting the coast side in our district. And, we ran the system for some days on backup power. And we can do this really forever.
And it's one of the things that, I mean, thankfully, nobody really needs to know, but the staff and our specialists have worked really hard to lay in provision for making sure that these services don't have to be put at risk when services like PG&E that we count on so much can't bear up. On the longer term thing, I've spent some time looking at some of what the electrification proposals are about, and it mostly is focused on new construction and big extensive remodels. So I know that some people have been out there saying things kind of not with speaking more broadly and more generally. And when I go and dig into the actual written proposals, they seem to be very focused on new things should be focused on one source that's not putting off more carbon, and where the carbon, where the energy production can at least be offset or perhaps even generated clean. So I think the intention is good, and the impact is not as broad as some of the stronger concerns have voiced. So I encourage taking a close look at exactly what the proposals are, because if they were saying, hey, come retrofit your homes, that would be an enormous expense, but it also would not go very far because, torches and pitchforks would be in the streets. So, I mean, I think about my, I've got a gas furnace in my home, and I really want to convert to something, more environmentally sensitive. And then I think, and that's going to cost a whole lot of money. So I think about it, I plan for it, but it's down the road. So pushing any of us to say, you got to do it now would be so impractical that I don't know any politician that would survive a push for that. Even as tough as the county is, the county wouldn't be able to pull that off. As much as you hear our concerns about getting adequate representation. Rick, I see your hand.
Yeah, just two quick comments. One to Ann, those laws are specifically Half Moon Bay. We have the benefit, I will say, of not being in Half Moon Bay, so they wouldn't directly affect us. And to the comments on the Mid-Coast Council, we will also be contacting them, because the goal is not to just keep the coast together, which we do. Some of the proposals push Pacifica into our group, which would, with their population, totally dominate the entire thing. But we are looking for support and getting support from all the unincorporated areas in the county, not just the coast side. This gives us even more strength and power, because that's all we have is our supervisor. We can't go to a city, we can't go to anywhere else. Our supervisor is our only person. So we are trying to unify the entire unincorporated area, which is huge in this county. Lots of maps have been submitted. Only 2 were passed to the supervisors. Again, the supervisors can literally do whatever they want. Some of the maps presented literally cut Montara off and pushed it to Pacifica, literally splitting our water and sanitary district in half. I don't think those are going forward, but those are the reasons we need the public to say, all of us need to be unified into one district, including all the unincorporated areas, because without that, we have no voice. The cities will always dominate us. And you've seen history. So stay tuned, because we're on this and want a lot of public support, for letters, attending meetings and things like that. So thank you much, Ann.
Thank you.
Okay, great topic. Any further comment? I'm guessing there's none. I'm glancing once, twice gone. Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. We have minutes from the October 7th, 21st meetings, the financial statements from September, the warrants for November 1st, the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Flow Report for September, the monthly review of current investment portfolio, the connection permit applications received, the monthly water production report, the rain report, yay, we actually have rain to report, the monthly solar energy report, and the monthly public agency retirement service report for August 2021. Do we have any items that directors might want to pull for consideration? If
Move to
not,
accept the consent.
thank you, Rick.
Second.
So Rick and Peter, first and second. Tracy, can we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries. The consent agenda is approved 5-0.
Do we
Yeah,
have to announce that Catherine's in Michigan? I think she's there, or is she home? Is that a legal requirement?
It is not, Director Loman,
Oh.
not under the current
Great.
remote rules. Good
Thank you.
question.
All right. Yeah, well, ever attentive to the Brown Act, so this is good. We have no old business, new business. We have 2 items. First one is review and possible action concerning that very topic, remote meetings during emergency conditions under Government Code Section 54953 of the Brown Act. Clemens.
Thank you, Scott. We adopted a resolution, this board adopted a resolution at the, about a month ago at the last meeting, at the first meeting in October, to be specific, that essentially allows us to continue to meet online. And here we are 30 days later, and now need to reassess if first the circumstances of the state emergencies have changed, or if the state emergency continues and directly impacts the ability of the members to meet safely in person. And if we find that that is the case, then we recommend that this board adopt further the same resolution of the Montara Water and Sanitary District, authorizing remote teleconference meetings of the Board of Directors under Government Code Section 54953 of the Brown Act during existence of state of emergency conditions related to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Rick, your hand is up.
First, a quick comment. I think this is our current method is the wave of the future. We get better public participation. I would hope that in the future, California realizes that this is really good for public input. And I look forward to probably a mixed thing in the future. But this is great. People don't have to commute. They don't have to show up and try to eat cookies at the meeting. And I move to approve this resolution.
I second that.
Okay, do we have any further discussion? Jim?
Yeah, I agree with that motion, but I think, as Rick alluded to, I think that we should have occasional meetings in person in the future. We should not forego seeing each other face to face and maybe seeing the public physically face to face also.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Any other comments? Okay, so seeing none from the board or the public, Tracy, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Of course.
All right, the motion
Yes,
carries
he
five.
gathered you.
The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Second item of new business, review and possible action concerning San Mateo County multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan annex. This is trying really hard to get, longest item title.
All right. Well, thanks, Scott. So Tanya's office has been doing an excellent job helping us navigate through this MJLHMP stuff. And we have her here today. So before I'm going to ask her to tell us a little bit about this annex. Ultimately, the recommended staff action would be to adopt the resolution to approve the 2021 San Mateo County Multi-Jurisdictional Local Hazard Mitigation Plan, Montara Water and Sanitary District Annex Plan. Tanya.
All 201 pages of it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Clemens. Mr. President, members of the board, as you may recall, a few months ago in the spring of this year, we brought this HMP, let's just call it HMP Plan Annex, to your attention. And it's spearheaded and led by the county. The county this time, for the county, county renews their plan every 5 years. And the whole mandate for this plan is a Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000. So the county is updating its 2016 plan with the 2021 update. They are doing an excellent job. The public outreach, the body of knowledge and opportunities for public input have been created. They're tremendous. And we were invited to participate, which was really great because last time we participated, this district participated in the HMP was through the Association of the Bay Area Governments. There was no outreach from the county back then. So we brought the item to your attention to get your concurrence with us annexing to the county's plan. And as Director Decker mentioned, this is an enormous document, over 200 pages, that incorporates the entire county. The cities usually have their own HMPs, but the unincorporated county is included. And the district, as a special district, is annexing to the county HMP with its entire geographic area and its facilities. So the process went from us preparing the documents, providing our projects, but the whole premise of this document is to have the ability to receive federal and state assistance should a disaster strike, pre-disaster mitigation or post-disaster mitigation. And we believe that together we stand stronger. And in this case, we're participating in the list of projects is provided to the county, and that's what our annex really is. We put everything that we could in the annex. Additionally, the district offered the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side, which cannot participate in the HMP, as it's not a special district, to partner. And so we included the SAM projects as well and in the MWSD's annex. It basically even though they don't have their own annex, but that would allow SAM to receive grant funding should that become available. So we, the district, are partners with SAM and the Sanitary County on this endeavor. The draft annex we submitted in July to the county. The county then turned around, assembled the whole plan with all the annexes by all special districts and submitted it to California Office of Emergency Services and FEMA for concurrent review on August 30th, 2021. On October 13th, FEMA notified the county that it approved the plan, and it's now pending adoption by the Board of Supervisors and the planning partners governing bodies. So to adopt the plan, your honorable board needs to pass a resolution that you concur with the plan and approve the annex and approve the plan itself. And then we collectively and individually become eligible to apply for hazard mitigation project funding. Again, this could be separate applications for grant funding or together with other partners. The county suggested some language for this resolution, which was reviewed by your legal counsel. And I'm, of course, going to let Christine speak on that subject on the review. This is not a project under the California Environmental Quality Act or the Sanitary Local Coastal Program, so there's no environmental review that's required. And there's no fiscal impact to the annex. Of course, if we ever decide or have the ability to apply for grants, they are usually partial funding, not the complete funding, not 100% funding for the projects. This would be brought back to this board to review the fiscal impacts on the district. And the recommendation on this item is to adopt a resolution next in order to approve the 2021 Sanitary County Multi-Jurisdictional Local Hazard Mitigation Plan for the Montara Water and Sanitary District Annex. And there are two volumes. Volume 1 is Planning Area-Wide Elements, which is an attachment 1. It's via a link. It's an enormous document. And the Volume 2 is the annex itself for the Montara Water and Sanitary District. That pretty much concludes my informational item, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Let's go to Rick.
This seems like a win-win, other than future limiting all agenda items to one line of 12-point font to keep them smaller. Are there any negative parts of this that I don't see? It seems like a win-win to me. This gives us grant getting powers and things like that.
We couldn't really find any. We have recommended that the district participates in this before, in the HMP before. Truly, if we're talking about regional disasters, potential regional disasters, this having this plan streamlines the funding. I believe the last time the district received FEMA reimbursement for post-disaster funding was about, 17 years ago when we had extreme storms. And it was not an easy path to follow. So this helps. This streamlines because everything kind of in the pipeline, the hazards are identified, the district had done all the work. So this work was very, very streamlined for us to submit. The district has a CIP, we included that. The district has the list of assets. So there's an asset management program. So I would agree with Director Lohman. I could not see any negative points here.
Great, thank you.
All right, Catherine.
At the CASA conference I went to, there was a great deal of discussion about at one workshop on the need for very specific types of record keeping to be able to get your money back, and if you through these reimbursement programs. So I think this is just it makes sense to try and keep this district as well as we can in terms of emergency funding and so on. But I do suggest that maybe Tracy and other staff take any of these CASA workshops so that we can make sure our funding is all kept as the government forms require, because they apparently are pretty intricate. And it can create a lot of problems if you don't have the record keeping done. So as long as we've gone this far, we only need like a little teeny bit more training just to make sure we're completely on board with this. I think it's a great idea. I remember talking to Tanya about it when we tried to get it done the first time, and it was a nightmare. So I'm glad things have improved. And thank you to Tanya and SRT for all your work, and Clemens for all your work on this. It is important for this district to be able to stay together financially in a disaster. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Tanya. Tanya, you mentioned Christine might want to weigh in. Christine, do you have anything?
Thanks, Director Boyd. No, Tanya did an excellent job, and she's right on point on all of the elements that are required in the resolution to adopt and then accept the annex, and she covered CEQA. So unless anyone has questions.
As long as Peter will second it, I move to approve this, and we can do a clean sweep of all the yeses on this between Peter and
Any
me.
chance to get a foot in the door for more funding is welcome.
We're good.
So I see a motion from Rick, a second from Peter. Let me weigh in with a comment. From time to time, we have people saying, hey, Montara really ought to go out for more grant funding. And one thing I want to point out in the staff report, there is a paragraph on fiscal impact. Pursuing this will cost us the money that it takes to put staff time into pursuing it. This is the price of going out for grant funding. This is also a reflection of we do this, and we hear you, and we believe in going out for grant funding, and I believe we will tonight step up to join in with this effort. I want to thank you, Tanya, for jumping in on this. I know some of the timelines were very rushed, and I'm just always pleased to see what kind of rabbits you're able to pull out of the hat. This is great stuff. So let's see. Tracy, could we have a roll call vote on this resolution, please?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Lohman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes 5-0. Thank you, everyone. With that, let's go to reports. Do we have a Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side report? Before we start, restraint, everyone. we don't have past midnight, so you know.
The major item was this non-domestic waste program. It was originally launched under SAM jurisdiction. Lots of managers meetings have occurred between Half Moon Bay, Grenada, and Montara. We felt that there was agreement to move this program forward when the actual meeting occurred, that did not occur. And there was a lot of opposition from breweries to the current plan. So it was decided to rewrite although the original program was called phase 1, to immediately followed by phase 2. The current program was voted down. Montara voted against the resolution, which meant to continue the current program of actually doing what Sam was supposed to do. It was delayed for whatever it takes to rewrite an entire program that included all businesses on the coast, not just phase 1. We voiced that this would stall the program and put us in greater danger from regulators. We were outvoted. It is moving forward. I hope that the future plan will be acceptable to all agencies and we can move forward with the BOD problems and everything else that's involved with this. So I hope within some reasonable time frame, we can create a resolution that will be backed by everybody to have all agencies, all businesses in the entire community watched and checked so we can move forward with this plan and get us out of regulatory danger and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on fines. That was really the big item.
Rick, for context for folks who may not know about this issue, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've had some problems at the plant where it was affected by something that came into the plant. We had people look at the problem and it looked like there were things coming into the plant that were putting a heavy biological oxygen demand on the plant, which is a living organism. And we have long had a program for anyone connected to the system putting things into it that aren't basic, household sewage. So whatever goes down your shower, your sink, your toilet, those kind of things. So if you're a business, like say a car wash or a restaurants very specifically, any of them that cook with grease, this program has met with the businesses and made sure they have good grease traps because grease shouldn't go down the drain. And this is a long-standing program, and their breweries became of interest because there was the possibility that had to be explored. Did something happen where a bunch of stuff got sent to the plant, but the plant just got overwhelmed by? And we need to be able to be in conversation with businesses to make sure that we manage what comes into the system so that we can handle what comes into the system without knocking it over and breaking it, because it's got to do the job for all 24 or so thousand people on the coastside. Is that about right?
Yes. The way this happened months ago is these BODs, as Scott mentioned, appeared at the plant and had to be reacted to and cleaned. Testing showed that the majority, if not all of these, were from the Princeton pump station, which is Princeton Harbor. At the time, the general manager took a step to, faced with regulators who may be able to shut us down, took a shot at doing something and set up a phase 1, which was to inspect the breweries really quickly and see if that was the problem. Although the system identified the problem at the Princeton pump station, there is no absolute evidence of any fault by anybody, and that's the big problem. So the breweries took the defensive issue of it's not our problem, it's your problem. So in all the ensuing arguments, Montara was voted down and a new plan is being drawn up to, quote, equally test everybody on the coast side. And there's some other ramifications of Half Moon Bay wanting to do all their own testing. This is in the SAM contract, the JPA, that says SAM will run the program, not necessarily do all the testing, but SAM is in charge. We're getting pushback now, at least from Half Moon Bay, possibly Grenada. We don't, that's all in flux at this moment. But there was a problem. It's gotten much better. There have been no reportable incidents since. This program that was set up many years ago kind of faded away because there was no problem. 3 or 4 general managers of SAM rolled through. It got quiet and then nothing really happened until all of a sudden we had the emergency problem. So the immediate emergency has gone away, but this has to be resolved now. Are we going to follow the SAM JPA agreement again? Or are we going to have other things? And other people want to talk here, so that's my analysis so far. And there's a SAM meeting on Monday.
Okay, Catherine.
Yeah, I have a few small corrections to make. It's not the Princeton pump station. The tests have been done at particular manholes in the Princeton area. And in fact, the BOD ratings from particular manholes point to particular specific inputs into the SAM, into the Grenada sewer system. It's not the Princeton pump station. That actually is first in line, and it doesn't have a problem.
Okay.
The problem has the 1990. I asked Clemens to put together a chronology for us. He sent it out today, so it's a public document for those who would like to see it, Michelle and anyone else, Anne, because this is a critical thing. In 1991, the entire SAM board and the document is signed by Barbara Dye, voted to continue this non-domestic waste source program. And all of a sudden, when we have these BOD problems in October of 2020, so maybe 18, 19 months later, all of a sudden we have these problems. And all of a sudden, the boards are making decisions. This board has supported the non-domestic waste source program at SAM. And it appears that Grenada and Half Moon Bay have other ideas. From what Jeremy, the attorney at SAM, has said, in order to change it the way they would like, we have to do a JPA amendment. And so I made a pretty strong statement at the last SAM board meeting because I am very upset. The SAM board has been meeting, and not the Montara delegates, but the others have been delaying fixing this problem. And I will say that Keishan and the crew at SAM are amazing. The things they have been doing to be able to keep the plant from having BOD issues that would be problematic with the regulators have been amazing. And they aren't able to get supplies anymore with this whole supply chain crisis. So they've had to go in and find alternate supplies to be able to keep the plant from having problems. There were serious issues with the presentation made to Grenada, hi Chuck, in the presentation, that was made to the Granada board, and I asked Keishan to send me the data, and I'm not nearly educated to look at it, so I asked Clemens to look at it and send it to Pippin so that our board could be getting a professional analysis from an engineer on this. And from what I have heard, one of the problems was there were problems with the very basic assumptions made at the very beginning of this. And apparently some wrong figures were used at the very beginning of the analysis that was presented to GCSD. So there's a lot of problems going on, but the biggest one is we have two agencies who are trying to change the JPA. There is a history of SAM board votes and of agreements, and I am worried, and this was in my no vote at the last SAM board meeting, and I made a parenthetical statement that I wanted included in the minutes, but I don't want Montara to get stuck paying for what these delays are going to cost us if the regulators come after SAM. And beyond that, we are already paying outrageous amounts of money that we wouldn't have, that should have been spent fixing the problem instead of paying for the chemicals to keep the plant from having BOD issues. And it's not only BOD, it's BOD, biological oxygen demands, and also chemical oxygen demands. So it's a multiplicity of problems. And I suggest everybody watch Monday's SAM board meeting, because when they said they didn't want the staff, when the board members who voted for this motion said they didn't want the SAM in re-upping this non-domestic waste source permit program, they said we'd get it done. We'd be able to get it done in 2 weeks. We shall see. So everybody, I suggest you watch. If you don't want to sign into the Zoom, you can always watch it live on Midcoast TV. Because it's a serious issue. And it's been going on for a year now. 1 year. And that's way too long. And it's not through the staff at SAM or the management that has caused this to go on. There are problems in 2 of the member agencies.
I would like to just add the one quick comment. In the context of all this, we're being sued by one of those agencies, which is making a mess out of the whole negotiation too. So.
Well, I think if anyone from Half Moon Bay or Granada is watching, it might be worth asking, what's the deal with taking a long-standing program and pushing against it and saying we don't need to do what has worked for us so well, especially at a time when something new's been happening that will definitely have regulatory enforcement consequences. It will go to money. Why now would we say we shouldn't use the mechanism that is there in place that we all agreed to years ago and used for many years to effectively manage the relationship with people who are connected to the system and putting in things that are non-domestic waste? Why would you do that? Why now, when regulators are in a heightened state of paying attention because bad things have happened? Why would you mess with it now instead of going in and making sure that it's working and doing the job and talking to the people? What we're talking about with everyone who's non-domestic in terms of what they're putting into the system is understanding what they put into the system, talking with them about things that might be problematic, and then making arrangements, basically coordinating with them to make sure that what they do works well with what we do so that the sewer plant can do its job for everybody. It's just about getting along and working together. That's what the non-domestic waste source, NDWSCP, I'm better with the acronym, waste source control program is all about. It's about talking to each other and putting in the necessary safeguards to make sure that the system's there to work for everybody, including the people putting in the non-domestic waste. So
Clemens is trying to jump in here too.
Thank you, Clemens.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just going to share my screen because, you know, these notes, can you guys see this? What's on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. You know, because I think this is really important. This is just a couple of bullet points. I hope I'm not going to, you know, read out what I put down here, but just as a guideline while I walk through this, because the topic is really straightforward. There is nothing complicated about it, but there is real attempts to make this to confuse the public, confuse directors. I believe that many of the SAM directors simply don't have the correct information in front of them to make the proper decision. I am very concerned about particularly the last SAM board meeting that really indicates that the SAM board did not fully understand what decision they're actually asked to make. So real briefly on the history here, we've heard it, October 2020, the SAM treatment plant experienced some upsets with the secondary treatment processes. And that really started in October 2020. It was thought that it was a one-time event, but it popped up repeatedly. So what really happened here is that we saw these unusual variations in the biological oxygen demand. That is really just an indicator parameter for water quality. Catherine mentioned that COD is also a problem that's associated with it. What we haven't really talked about is filamentous bacteria that are also were found in the plant that are only associated with certain industrial processes that all really interfere with the proper treatment of the sewage. So that led to over 30 violations of the state-issued National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. So that's the permit that the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast holds that allows them to discharge water into the National Marine Sanctuary. And so, of course, state regulators have been looking at this, are in regular contact with SAM, and are also and continue to ask questions about the progress that SAM is making in addressing these issues. And it is very clear that SAM will see fines for these violations for the ones that we had so far. And hopefully we will not see any more in the future. So treatment processes are extremely complicated. It's like a live organism that needs to, it's literally, you know, a lot of bugs eating essentially organic matter that comes along. So it is very difficult to understand. It is biological processes, chemical processes all mixed together. So that's why SAM has consulted multiple treatment plant experts and then engaged with Brown and Caldwell with a proper plant processing engineer or a firm that has that knowledge to review the plant upsets and advise how to prevent these violations. SAM also went out on top of that. Brown and Caldwell is really looking only at the treatment plant, only at the processes that happen at the treatment plant. SAM performed some field tests to see if there's a problem out, if this is an internal problem or if this is an external problem. It wasn't clear. I'm not going to say it is clear now, but what SAM found was high levels of biological oxygen demand in the influent sewage and excessive levels of BOD, literally off the charts in sections of collection systems that feed into the SAM-owned collection system. Now, the SAM board received a presentation from Brown and Caldwell. They were all informed about this through the wastewater treatment plant capacity and process study that was received in August this year. And there is really two things that Brown and Caldwell recommended. That's first addressing the plant internal processing shortfalls. Actually, SAM staff addressed those immediately while this was happening. And of course, it is clear that while a violation happens, while a plant is not able to catch itself, that there is some changes that are made to allow the system to catch itself. So the first recommendation was really to make some of these changes, and really including also the increase in number of aeration basins. Aeration is really the most effective way to address this. And the plant wasn't in the plant expansion 94 was actually differently designed than what it is run right now. So an aeration basin hasn't been properly equipped. So that was a recommendation to bring on this additional basin. With that, really the report confirmed that the SAM plant didn't have really the adequate capacity at that moment to treat the current flow and loading. And again, what the cause for this isn't really addressed. However, the plant processing engineer clearly recommended to investigate the source of the high BOD loading, and that's exactly what SAM did. So two recommendations: plant internal, let's address what we can to be able to process more of this BOD load. And second, let's look in the collection system if we can address through a source control program the reduction of these high loads. Now, SAM has an existing non-domestic waste source control program that was really a condition to the federal funding agreement for the treatment plant expansion. So it was established in '94. Then, so it's a JPA amendment. The actual ordinance really sets out all the rules. The ordinances then were confirmed by all member agencies. Every single member agency basically said, yes, we will adhere to these, to this program. The program was updated and newly adopted by the SAM board in 2019, so it's up to date. Then I think what's also really important is there is this notion that the program wasn't implemented since 2014. It's just not correct. There is many businesses included in this. The majority of businesses are really restaurants, car shops, etc. And those fall mainly under the fats, oil, and grease. It's called FOG portion of this NWSCP program. That was kept up. However, there are non-FOG portions that weren't enforced since 2014. Those are really the areas where we see the most potential to introduce these BOD issues. So SAM staff really started to ramp this back up, the implementation of the small portion of the NWSCP program, so the non-FOG commercial discharges, and that was really in June 2021 that we first heard that this would be reintroduced and re-ramped up. Since then, the SAM board has asked that this be considered at the SAM board in July, August, September, and October. There's really 5 months that the SAM board now has looked at this. This is for me a real concern, and it is I think a significant delay, particularly now that the SAM board directed the managers to look at an agreed approach how to implement this on September 27th. and or asked us to do this before. We came up with various models. The agencies agreed to continue the program as it is. That was approved by the SAM board on September 27. I think what is of a real concern to me is that on October 21st, the Granada Community Services District Board received a staff presentation that is questioning the provided expert opinion by the plant process experts. Catherine indicated that I see this as very problematic because I think if a report is made by someone with that does not have the proper background to understand these processes, I think we see a lot of errors and half-truths introduced into this. And this is exactly what happened here. I'm not going to dive into any of the direct issues that I'm seeing with this presentation because I think it's really unnecessary to doubt the process. It really doesn't matter if the origin of the problem is from is planned internal or if it is coming from the collection system. We have to have this dual approach. We have to tackle the problem plant intern and also in the collection systems. We need to do this. And the only way to do it is by an MWSD program. And again, we have a great one in place. Now at the last board meeting, after this presentation, on October 25, the SAM board, now by vote of Granada's and Half Moon Bay's representatives, did not approve the SAM staff requested funding that is associated for the initial assessment of the businesses, the non-FOG businesses that are producing non-domestic sewage. And that now adds further to the delayed implementation of the needed source control within SAM. My perspective...
Clemens, could you just real quickly remind us non-FOG, what that means?
That means that it's essentially all the commercial dischargers that wouldn't fall into the FOG, oils, and grease category, whatever types of businesses those are.
So fats, oils, and grease. So it's all the other businesses. So restaurants are among the fats, oils, and grease, FOG. It's just that here on the coast side, FOG could really confuse somebody.
Right.
Okay.
And so, I mean, again, from my perspective, there is really one main function that SAM has, and that is to protect the environment. Here it's our National Marine Sanctuary. And I am just very concerned with the extreme delays, and it is becoming very obvious that there is not really an interest from certain parties to implement the NWSCP program. And I find that very troubling and concerning. Pippin, you took a look at the GCSD board meeting. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but if you have any comments that you would like to share, what you saw in this meeting, let us know.
Sure, thanks, Clemens. I think you point out a couple important points, and I think Catherine and Scott also touched on this. The regulatory requirement to have a program in place that looks at your businesses is a longstanding program in this district, and is most districts around California have to have something like this. In the case of SAM, the federal funding to expand the plant and improve the plant quality tied to it several requirements, and one of those requirements was to implement discharge points. Companies, any business, and they could be in a residential location, but any business or any discharger that is, could accidentally or on a regular basis discharge something into the sewer that's not conventional household waste. And it doesn't have to be toxic stuff. It can be food processes. It could be sugar. It could be an accidental oil spill at a gas station, where it gets washed down a floor drain, all the motor oil from an engine or something. All of these things, some districts have bus stations where they wash the buses, and then all that road grime, it really needs to be separated out before it gets to the treatment plant, because the problems can be in the treatment plant. In case of fats, oils, and grease, they can collect in the collection system, cause stoppages and spills before the sewage has a chance to even get to the plant. So whether we have a problem at the treatment plant or not, it's a federal and state requirement that we execute this program. The program is extensive. It lists all the type of businesses you expect to have. It has all kinds of standards of what's appropriate. For example, if I ran a vinegar factory, I couldn't just pour the vinegar down the sewer because that would change the pH significantly. If I was making salt, imagine I was a salt factory and I dumped a bunch of salt down there, or where you have a leak and you wash salt water into the system, too much salt kills the bugs at the plant. All these things are very sensitive to the biological activity in the plant. So the intent is just to have a relationship with the businesses. Step one is just knowing what the businesses are, having a relationship with them so they understand the treatment plant is affected by what they do, and having a dialogue about what you do. There are extreme cases on like Budweiser plant, huge brewery that has to have their own pre-treatment. I don't know that there's anything in this community that's of that size, but understanding your businesses is the first step to making this program work. And when businesses change, you need to update your list. And so that's just one comment about the program. In terms of the actual presentation, as you pointed out already, it's a complicated process. And one of the things that's misleading when you look at data or numbers is if you just think of things as all the sewage is diluted equally all the time, the numbers can kind of equalize out and maybe appear low. But flow doesn't work like that to a plant. In terms of flow, there's times of the day where the flow is very high and times of the day where the flow is very low. So that's one way working with businesses that might discharge what doesn't seem like a lot of sewage to them, when they do it and how much. For example, most districts we work with have a permit. If you want to drain your swimming pool, please don't do it over 50 gallons a minute, because downstream it could affect something. And if you do it, call the district and let them know you're going to do it. So if suddenly one of our pump stations starts running really high, we know what has happened. So the other thing that's really important with BOD, people use these terminologies, BOD and COD, and what is that? What actually happens, you have basically two things that go to the treatment plant. And to simple it down to the very simplest, there are three things. You have water, which is about 98% of what goes to the treatment plant. You have carbonaceous, carbon from a household, you have human waste, and then you have food that goes down the garbage disposal. And then you have occasional non-reactive things like chunks of plastic and debris that gets flushed down the system. So the treatment plant, step one is to try to screen out and rake out those physical particulates like plastic that don't break down. Then you're left with, like I said, mostly 98% water, and you have this biological material that needs to be broken down by the bugs. So the treatment plant processing engineers and the staff think of these two things. You have to understand them kind of separately. Flow is how much pumping you need, and you can look at that in terms of concentration, how many chemicals are in that amount of water. But when it comes to the biochemical oxygen demand, what matters is the pounds of stuff. And so to put it in, the quantities, on an average day, the treatment plant might get 2,000 pounds of stuff that needs to get broken down. And so you can have one small discharger intentionally or accidentally, or like a restaurant putting things down, their extra pound of grease that goes down starts becoming significant. if it gets all the way to the treatment plant. So that pounds of BOD, as we terminology, is actually the physical weight. Maybe a ton of debris food waste and things has to get broken down. And there's different steps of the process to do that. And, if you take those same numbers that, maybe don't appear too significant on concentration, and you convert it to pounds of waste brought to the plant, some of those same numbers, which were low on concentration, could be 20 or 30% of the actual pounds of loading on a day. And depending on what time of day it is, if it's a time when there's not much homeowner flow from residentials, but it's higher from businesses, that percentage loading could be significant. So I think from a technical standpoint, the report that was done by the process engineers, looked at the process, it looked at the capacity, it looked at what you need to have a little extra capacity if you do for some reason have, either a little upset because of, something internally, which is a possibility, or from extra loading. It's nice to have some extra capacity so you can control that water before it just gets pushed out to the ocean, before you have a chance to the plant has a chance to bring the reactive levels down. So I think the biggest takeaway is that there's a reason why, there's a lot of parts to it. And, just looking at one aspect and one perspective on the numbers doesn't really tell the whole story as to the difficulties. Think of it like, I don't want to, relate sewage to baking, but you can have a whole pile of ingredients, but, if you don't put them in at the right time and things get mixed up or in the wrong quantities, it doesn't work right. And that's the same way the treatment plant. There's a whole process that goes through. And if that gets out of whack, it can take time to reset it.
I just wanted to add, for those of us who do sourdough, you have to be careful when you put the salt in the sourdough mixture,
right? And
how much salt you use. Because if you put too much salt in too early, you won't get the rise or the flavor that you want. Yep. And I think, and the salt is really, you're talking a quarter of a teaspoon to a large volume of flour.
That's correct. The other thing I wanted to add too, we're talking about businesses, one business that didn't get mentioned, that was a big, big deal, you guys might remember 25, 30 years ago, were dentists. If you guys remember, there was a big push among especially coastal folks along the coast of California. You can call them long hairs or hippies if you want, my parents' generation, that suddenly decided mercury fillings were bad and we should grind them all out and put in other amalgams. A bunch of people did that. And there was a huge spike. Fillings are small, but there was a huge spike in mercury toxicity in sewage. And so it was like, whoa, wait a minute. We got to businesses like dentists putting in a very small quantity of stuff are having a big impact in places like the South Bay, where stuff was going into the bay and the water was not flushing out in the giant ocean. So just because it goes in the ocean doesn't mean we should put in more pollution. We need to be just as careful. So, now it turns out, maybe people aren't so worried about their mercuries and they decided, leave it in there. It's not really hurting you. And all new fillings maybe put in something else. But I bring that up where it doesn't take a lot of a quantity of something to cause a shift in the pollution to where it's significant. So I think the same is true with the treatment plant. We think of, it's millions of gallons, but when we're talking about pounds of pollutants, just if there's 2,000 pounds of pollutants or of biological matter going to the plant, any one person dumping a pound of sugar down their sink is actually making a significant contribution to the work the treatment plant has to do that day. So, everyone needs to get along and work together and be aware that what they flush has real consequences. And that's homeowners too. We're talking about don't put your grease down your garbage disposal. Don't put Swiffers and wipes down your toilet, please, because they don't break down. They plug everything up. They grind, they get stuck in the pumps. so this program is not just businesses. It's about educating the whole community to the best way to make it work for everybody.
So to sum up, thank you for all of that. That was wonderful. Who would have thought that talking about sewage would be wonderful? But, we all take for granted that this stuff is just going to work. And there's not a person in our community who really wants to spend any more time thinking about it than it takes to flush the toilet or take a shower or run the dishwasher or whatever. We all just want to know this thing's going to work. This is why it's so important that any of us who have any kind of business that has the potential to upset the plant, be in conversation with the people who run the plant. That's what the program's about. It's why the state and the federal government requires having a program. It's why Sam has done it for decades. And right now, Montara is being, I think, extremely clear that right now is not the time to dilly-dally. Right now is not the time to dither. Right now is the time to get really serious about having those conversations and executing on a program that we've long had. And if it's become moribund, it's time to wake it up, because not because the regulators are on our backs, but because we care about doing our job and the plant needs this kind of attention. And we're going to have to deal with the regulators, but we're going to deal with the regulators with a lot less energy and a lot less effort and a lot less cost to our community if we get on top of the problem. And if that means talking to some neighbors who aren't used to talking to the people at the sewer plant, well, we're going to have to get past that. But our partners at the sewer authority need to stop standing in the way of executing on a program, which is all about the communication. I mean, like Pippin said, if it means that you just time or limit how much of your stuff you're putting down into the plant, like if you've got 5,000 gallons of something with a lot of yeast in it and you need to get rid of it, there's no reason, as far as I know, that it can't come to the plant, but please not all at once, and please not at certain times. And, talk to the plant. We can work things out. It's all okay. What's not okay is not talking. And if you're a homeowner, please don't put 5 pounds of sugar down the drain. That could be a problem too. So, okay, real good stuff. For our audience at home, we actually enjoy these wonky discussions because we like to keep it so it just works. We get kind of worked up when it doesn't work. So that's our job. So thank you all for being on top of this.
I want to add that as Pippin said and Clemens said and Rick said, this is part of a sequence of steps. And nobody's getting their toes stepped on, but where I see the biggest problem is some businesses, and this is hard times for businesses, and they're all of a sudden feeling picked on.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason is because this program was relaxed and not followed real closely. And so all of a sudden they're going, what, us? Why all of a sudden are you picking on us? There are all kinds of manuals and programs and teaching materials on all of this BOD and COD stuff for businesses. It's not new. And so everyone's saying, well, I'm not, it's not my fault. I'm not adding that much. And one of the things that Sam has done is to put in a 27-year-old delay in the expansion of the pump. And that's one of the aeration basins. There were supposed to be 2 aeration basins with fine diffusers. Sorry for all the wonky stuff, guys. And we've only had gross, huge bubblers, and they don't work as effectively as the fine air diffusers. So the SAM board, that's the first thing we did, was to try and solve the problem, one of the problems at the plant. Now we're going on to the second one, and that's where people are feeling, some people are feeling picked on. And it's not the case. There's probably multiple problems, but you have to just take the problems in sequence and work on them. So, yeah, as I said, watch the meeting on Monday. And I think we should keep talking about this. If people have any other ideas, please get back to Rick and I, because we don't know it all, but we are out to protect the district, our ratepayers, and the plant.
I'd like to correct Karen. We do know it all. Come on, give me a break.
We strive to know it all. Yeah. I just want to, several times the diffusers have been mentioned, and Catherine threw in the right word. We're talking about blowing bubbles, people. That's how we deal with some certain kinds of pollution, blowing bubbles, big time industrial scale bubble blowing. And if you've never been to the sand plant and you want to see it, I'm sure a tour could be arranged. The SAM staff has done an outstanding job over the years of getting tours to groups like students from the high school. And you wouldn't believe it, but those are actually very popular tours. With that, everyone thought I was being over the top on saying, hey, midnight comes, let's keep it short. I don't think I was wrong. Let's move on then to the Mid-Coast Community Council meeting. We don't have Greg here. He's our usual volunteer to step in and help. Anyone else have a Mid-Coast Council thing to add?
And let's ask Ann. She sounded like she's been following the MCC.
Sorry to catch you unawares, Ann.
Oh, no worries. I was going to say there wasn't a whole lot that was really discussed other than the redistricting. And I know there was a lot of discussion regarding the eucalyptus tree removal and what's going on in El Granada.
Mm-hmm.
And I pay attention to that, but slightly less because I'm in Moss Beach. So I have to admit that unfortunately, I'm not on top of that as much, but I know there was some concern about where they're removing the trees in Corey Park. And I guess some of the neighbors were hoping it would be a little more substantial than it was. But then I'm trying to think what else stood out to me. The Connect the Coast side is going to be discussed. They finalized that, and that will be discussed at the next meeting, which I think is next week, next Wednesday.
So large roundabouts every quarter mile, is that the idea?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's what they're still saying. So we'll see. But that's still, it still is a problem because where they want to put that roundabout is right where you put the new pipes in Moss Beach and Montara at Carlos.
Yeah.
And then they're also discussed, and in that, I think it also discusses connecting 16th with, I think there was like there's something else that they're trying to do for the development with the road there that I know may interfere with the water system. So that's still ongoing. But other than that, I think that's all I really have.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome.
That was a great report, and maybe we could have a little chat with Greg about taking some notes on. No, just kidding. I'll just mention, yeah, we've had some interest in what's going on with doing things with trees and wild areas about fire as well. So that's great to hear some feedback about what's going on in Granada. And I just want to weigh in and say that the location at Carlos doesn't strike me as in any way ideal, given that it's coming around the bend with an elevation change, and it's kind of blind approaches from two sides. It seems hard to believe that would be informed by traffic engineer specialization. Let's go to Catherine.
Let me add, for people who are watching, the Connect the Coast report is available on the Mid-Coast Community Council website. So you can go through it, you can leaf through it, whatever. But and it's very important, if you have strong feelings on these things, put them in writing. Make yourself heard, because there are some really silly things, like a major freeway over that somehow got converted to a tunnel just by the sheer will and effort of the folks on the coast. So we can do it. We will do it. Let's keep it safe. Thank you.
Okay, Catherine, I will accept your chiding. I will see about writing that up. CSDA report. Rick.
Say it again real quick.
CSDA report.
The next meeting coming up in November, the current president is moving to cancel that meeting so she can talk to all the agencies to see what you really want out of the district. I was hoping to, and I'm going to call her and talk to her about possibly having a quick Zoom meeting to support our redistricting proposals, which keep the main alternative project splits 8 to 10 cities in half and gerrymanders most of the coast to do something, but I don't know what's going to happen. But if that's canceled, then it's going to be January or so before we have another meeting. So.
Okay, Rick, you get to go again. Local Agency Formation Commission report, LAFCO.
Nothing since the last meeting, and I think next month we have a meeting. But
okay, that's a great report.
It's moving along.
Attorney's report, Christine.
No, I have no report, Director Boyd.
All right, director's reports. I have no director report. Peter, Jim, Greg, Catherine. Catherine, your hand's still up. I'm just going to call on you and calling you and calling you. Peter, you leaned forward. Did you have something?
No.
Oh, okay. Great. General manager's report.
Yeah, I'm going to take the opportunity to say something that I forgot to mention at the annex of the local hazardous mitigation plan. We're the first agency in San Mateo County to actually annex and adopt this resolution. So I just wanted to point that out and thank Tanya for getting us in that early.
That's awesome, because we were not the first to show up, but the first to get signed up.
Yes.
That's great. All right, we have come to the end of the public session. We're going to take a 7-minute break, coming back at 9:09. We thank the public for being here. We are going to talk about Conference of Legal Counsel, existing litigation, one case with the city of Half Moon Bay sues all of its friends. Another anticipated litigation, one potential case, another anticipated litigation and one potential case. And then if we take any action in closed session, we will report that out, and that will be in the minutes. Thank you all for coming. Thank you very much for your participation. It's terrific.
Thank you, public.
To work with an involved community.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. And we'll see everybody else in closed session back at 9:09.
Thank you
Tracy.
so much.
Thank you, Anne.